Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the C.L. Bryant Show. I am C.L. Bryant, and I'm glad that you could come along with us for this great American journey that we are on together. I want to thank everybody in Southern Arkansas, East Texas, and all of you folks there in North Carolina and throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America, for being there. Download the free C.L. Bryant Show app onto your phone, whether it's an Android or iPhone, or go to TheCLBryantShow.com, TheCLBryantShow.com, and listen to us anywhere you are. Folks, I don't know if you're having this kind of difficulty in the state where you live, wherever you are living. I don't know where it might be. But down here in Louisiana, it seems as though we're trying to put ourselves out of business. Yeah, it seems like we are in an active campaign of trying to put ourselves out of business. New Orleans is the largest attraction here in the state of Louisiana. And it's more than just the French Quarter why people come to visit New Orleans. It's more than just the flavor of Louisiana why people come to visit this state. And you may feel the same way about wherever you are. It might be North Carolina. It might be, wherever, you name it, Mississippi, Minnesota, Chicago, wherever you're from. There's a reason why people come there, because your state has a certain flavor to it. Well, Louisiana, I have a belief that the social engineers are trying to wash us away by removing monuments that mean something to the flavor of the state. The flavor of the state since its inception. The state was formed with a certain flavor that made it what it eventually became, and why people want to come to Louisiana, the uniqueness of it. And then, folks, I am telling you that when you remove the monuments of your history, you lose your identity. And quite frankly, why come or go to a place that's not really known for anything anymore? It's not known for anything anymore. It has no identity anymore. And everybody knows, especially whatever state you're in, everybody knows, and I'm speaking of my home state, Louisiana. Your children are leaving. Your businesses are leaving. They're relocating. And if we don't do something soon about the state of mind that we have in this state, the stupidity in that state of mind that we have, if we don't do this soon, there won't be anyone left in this state to care. And there certainly won't be anybody here to pay for what folks have left behind. Now, there won't be anybody here to pay for it, because you'll become a nanny state. And that's not going to last very long in a state with the type of revenue. We have good revenue, but a state that has type of taxes and tax bases that we have, it's just not going to last. So what do? You take away the things that attract people to your state. You go and put them in mothballs, or you tuck them away somewhere that makes it hard for people to see who you were and what you were about. I'm telling you, it is the height of stupidity. I never thought that I would be saying this about our state, because I thought we were secure in our identity of who we are, what we were about. And I thought that we had a common sense enough to know that through it all, we have survived. We have made it as a nation, as a state. Through it all, in spite of it all, we have made it as a state. But yet and still, the progressive liberal ideas and those who espouse progressive liberal ideas, and those of us who preach against that, are wondering, why would anybody come here to be in the company of a bunch of politically correct people? They can have the same thing in California, or Florida, New York. My point, you come to Louisiana because it's Louisiana. You go to Georgia for the same reasons. You mean to tell me that we're breeding a bunch of Americans who are afraid of American history? Is that what you're saying? You mean that we're breeding a bunch of Americans who can't understand or who can't handle the truth about who we are as a nation? Is that what are we actually yielding to that? You are here in Louisiana. And I am telling you that you are among the least states who can afford to give away the reason and the purpose for people coming here in the first place. And that's the flavor that you have. We make a very good gumbo, but hey, you take the roux out of the gumbo. Any gumbo that's made without a really good roux foundation, I ain't eating it. There's no need to have it. It becomes a soup, not a gumbo. Louisiana, you have something very special that has made you who you are. And wherever you're living in this country, you have something special that make you who you are. And whether it's a Confederate monument or whatever type of monument it was a part of our history. It made us a part. It's a part of the flavoring of who we are. Take it away. And I said earlier, I'll say it again. You'll soon have a state that there will not be anyone here left to care what happens. And certainly no one left to pay for what happens. Keep it up if you want to. Keep it up. It's stupid. Be back in a minute.
The first thing you do when you get up out of bed is hit that streets a running and try to beat the masses. Go get yourself some cheap sunglasses. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
CL back with you on this Monday here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming along with us on this great American journey that we are on here together. And, I want to give you an idea about the beautiful thing that's going on in this world today, and I think that is a bridge that is being built, and one of the engineers that's helping to build that bridge is on with me right now, and that is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser is the president and founder of American Islamic Forum for Democracy. And I think that the bridge that the president is doing his very best to build in the Middle East, I think that one of the building blocks, the key building blocks to that, will be men and women like Dr. Jasser. Zuhdi, you know how I respect you, and thank you so much for being on with me again. Thank you for being there.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you, CL.
Zuhdi, I want to get your take on how are you viewing the president's mission there in the Middle East so far, with both the Islamic factions and the Jewish factions?
Well, I think, President Trump is rebooting the relationship of what real leadership is, as far as clarity, as far as not apologizing. President Obama spent 8 years beginning and ending every speech with an apologetic that blamed America for the ills of the world, and sort of kneeled down and blamed us at the altar of all of these dictatorships and tyrants, which was just absurd. And I think President Trump is saying, listen, we respect the major faiths of the world. This is not in any way a clash of religions, but this is an Islamist problem. He used the word. And these radicals don't come out of thin air. They don't come from outer space, as Elliot Abrams said. They are coming from the ideologies in these countries. And, I think the Arab leadership, as much as they may not like some of that, were ready and welcomed him with a red carpet and with glowing reviews, because they have been abandoned, especially the Sunni side, have been abandoned for so long at the altar of the nuclear deal, at the altar of hundreds of billions of dollars of cash going in pallets across the Sunni countries into Tehran,
right.
That they saw themselves, on their own. And that created a significant amount of instability in the region, that now they're beginning to sort of take a sigh of deep breath that the 20th century stability where America had their back is back now.
Yeah.
And they have a lot more to be comfortable about right now.
Yeah, Reuben Ravine, the president of Israel, actually said those words, Zuhdi, that he's so glad to see that America is back. And I see that the president is going to meet with Mahmoud Abbas on tomorrow, and the Palestinian leaders. And one of the questions that I think you might be able to bring some clarity to, the Palestinians, the PLO, and they want that West Bank, they want that area. Why won't they ask Egypt or Jordan for land? Why do they need that portion of land? And should they have it? Should there be a two-state solution, in your opinion?
Well, boy, there's a lot to unpack there, CL. I think that's the ultimate question, is why do the Palestinians need that? I think as much as a two-state solution in many ways is the only solution, because a one-state solution ultimately would depopulate the state of Israel from Jewish majority. So you in many ways have to look at a way that continues to allow the Israelis, the state of Israel, to maintain its Jewish identity and its sovereignty, because this whole right of return, etc., can often be used as a false propagandistic attempt to try to actually dissolve Israel, which is what the Palestinians try to do in saying that they want, if they ever look at a federated solution of one state, which I think would not be a solution. Now, which part of the current areas of West Bank and Gaza would be that state? And, that's the dispute. And I don't think we should resolve it at this moment. Obviously, yeah. I believe Jerusalem is exaggerated in that for the Muslim side, the base for Islam is in Mecca. And obviously Jerusalem has importance for Muslims significantly in our history.
Yeah.
But the linkage of saying that no peace can be made unless Jerusalem is part of Palestine is just absurd. That is a false propagandistic attempt by the Palestinians to control the narrative.
And they have controlled it for a long time. It's going to be very interesting to see how that sit down with Abbas will go. Were you surprised, Dr. Jasser, at the type of reception that the president received there in Saudi?
I was, because on the one hand, you have the left media and so much of the global media saying, and still even after he spoke, which is even more absurd, saying that he was anti-Islam, anti-Muslim, and using other aspects of some of the campaign verbiage or the executive order about pausing immigration from those 6 countries, that somehow that made it that he was against Islam. And yes, he had some poor word choice during the campaign, but I think if you listen to the verbiage of his speech, and if you look at the context, they had already understood that this president was going to come back and shore up support for the Sunni governments, that he was going to, as he said in his speech, isolate Iran. That was something that I'm sure they pretty much was all they needed to hear.
Yeah.
And, I wish he hadn't said he wasn't going to lecture them. I would like to see the leader of the free world give them a few lessons about human rights. There should be some strings attached to any support that we give. I think being an ally is not a binary equation. We either love you or hate you.
Yeah.
There is a gray area in there that I hope to see us begin to exert even more so into the future.
This president's salvation, I think, does hinge a lot on this trip. We're on with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, and I want to return. Zuhdi, can you stay with me through the break? I have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
I'm CO. We will return with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. So, CL back with you on this Monday, streaming throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America, here at our flagship station, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel AM. On with me is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. And one of the things that many times we overlook when we're talking to Dr. Jasser is that he is a medical doctor. He is an internist and a nuclear cardiologist, but also he is the president and founder of American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Zuhdi, give us that website.
AIFdemocracy.org, AIF as in forum, democracy.org.
And folks, go there. His mind is incredible. You see him all the time on Fox. Well, he's in demand. Fox, CNN, wherever you want to tune in, you can see and hear Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, our guest today. And Zuhdi, let me ask you this about the, I guess the future of the relationship of Islam with the Jewish state. Is there truly now, as the president was saying in Jerusalem, as he said there in Saudi Arabia, is there now truly, in your opinion, a chance for that bridge to be built? Can we have finally a true opportunity for peace with this president? What are you thinking?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think what people missed is in the last 2 years, the only unintended consequence that was positive from the Obama administration is that because of American abandonment, the Gulf states, which for long, and they're still teaching anti-Semitism in their theology and interpretations, but politically, the leadership in Saudi Arabia has been positive about Israel in their media, which is just unheard of. That's because there's a common enemy. There has been an opening of economic channels between the Gulf states and Israel. And I think that will bode well as President Trump moves forward with rekindling our relationship with Israel back to our friend to lead from the front and not from behind, and no longer holding Israel to a standard that's unheard of, as Obama did. And, I think ultimately there is a setting now, if you will, as the common enemy of Iran, as you heard in President Trump's speech of isolating Iran and Syria. Mm-hmm. That verbiage, by the way, which won't ring well in Moscow either, which is great as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. But that verbiage, I think, will go a long way to beginning to get the Sunni Arab countries, if you will, to not only recognize Israel, but look at making sure it's safe and secure into the next generation.
And as we look at that, and as I said earlier, folks, many times Dr. Jasser is called on to, of course, give his opinion on the state of relationship with Islam and so forth. He's a foremost scholar and authority on that, but he's also, as I mentioned to you, a medical doctor. And Zuhdi, I want to get your input on how we are proceeding, because our attention has been taken away from us over the scandals with Russia, as you alluded to, and all of this type of thing. How are we going to proceed with replacing Obamacare? That is something that should be on the front burner, but it's not. You're a doctor. Why can we get this done this year?
Boy, I'm so glad you asked me that. The issue with Obamacare is, it's interesting. Yesterday, one of the, Bob Schieffer was being interviewed, and one of the CNN anchors told him, he said, well, why are you complimenting? Don't you think if you compliment the president's speech in Riyadh, that'll normalize this president? And it's just a bizarre way to look upon. I mean, regardless of what you think of what he's doing, he is our president, and there are many different parts of running this country that we need to continue to move forward, and part of it is the healthcare process. And I think whether it's tax cuts or the health care reform that needs to happen, Obamacare has been an outright disaster for not only the practice of medicine, but the doctor-patient relationship, where patients have there are so many intruders in the room with me, between the patient and myself, that it has become no longer the independent doctor-patient relationship between the pharmacy companies and the insurances and the premiums that have skyrocketed. They have not been able to keep their doctor. I will say that my criticism is after 8 years of this gargantuan plan, I was a bit frustrated to see the House all of a sudden bake it in 1 month. That
Yeah.
didn't make any sense to
Yeah.
me. They needed to slow down, and I'm glad, the Freedom Caucus spoke up, and let's take time over the summer, but get it right within the next 6 to 12 months and fix the problem so that you can begin to bring back true competition in the marketplace of insurance and healthcare, where we've been moving towards a nationalized, socialized system. And I get concerned sometimes that President Trump is not a conservative on these issues. I hope he will be. I think the House will keep him accountable to that. But I hope he doesn't move towards, a single-payer system. And I think he is talking about having more competition across state lines.
Well, that is the fear of many of us conservatives, that there is some type of single payer out there in the bushes. You said something that I have not heard a medical doctor say to an audience like this, and that there are intruders in the room with the patient and their doctor. I can actually visualize that, even though you can't see these intruders, can you? There truly are intruders in that room there with the patient and the doctor. I hope you say that somewhere national, on a national syndicated television program, Zuhdi. I think people need to hear it put just like that, because it's a very private thing that really isn't private anymore when you bring big government into it, is it?
It isn't. And this is the issue, is that for too many, the disease lobbies, if you will, for certain cancers, heart disease, the other group lobbies, if you will, have all insisted on having parts of insurance mandated. So as a result, it ends up becoming an all-or-none process with insurance. So as a result, then the insurance companies as payers have rights. Patients then lose their rights. So in order to get anything approved, you may decide with a patient they need a procedure. They think they have their insurance covered, so it doesn't even come into the conversation. Then you spend the next 2 weeks, all with unbillable time, trying to figure out how to get things authorized, which prescriptions to rewrite or get prior auths for. I mean, the practice of medicine is no longer about a doctor-patient relationship, and it should be more transparent.
Zuhdi, there's the music. You know what? I got to bring you back. You're fired up over this, I can tell. Got to bring you back real soon. Thank you so much for being on with me.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
318-320-5335 is the number to call if you want to talk to me. I'll be happy to talk to you. This is the C.L. Bryant Show. I am C.L. Bryant. And, folks, I am telling you that we better tighten it up. We better tighten it up and get our business in order. Jay, I'll take one. Mike's on the line. Mike, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I was just listening to you speak to the gentleman about the health insurance plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my question is, and I promise you, I don't work for an insurance company. I'm not an insurance agent. But theoretically, if you're driving home tonight, God forbid,
yeah,
and you don't have insurance on your car, and you total out your car and somebody else's car, do you think you could call an insurance agent tomorrow and get insurance on your car where it would cover both your car and the victim's car that you hit? And
Ain't
the reason
happening.
I'm saying this is this people that have pre-existing conditions. I'm a capitalist, and I understand insurance companies are in the business to make money just like you and I are.
Right.
How can they make money off pre-existing conditions?
And therein lies the discussion, Mike. And you see, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because the scenario that you gave is exactly the situation that makes sense. Now, people are going to say that because we're having this kind of conversation, we are not compassionate. Yes, we are. The thing that makes you compassionate is that you're telling people, take care of yourself, take care of your responsibility. The chief responsibility, Mike, is not your car. It's not your home insurance. It's you. Take care of yourself. Now, if you happen to be indigent, or if you happen to be someone who is just born sick, let's just say, just to use an example, then people like you and me, because we are capitalist, we must put aside something to take care of people who cannot take care of themselves, but not the guy who did not take out the car insurance, not the guy who was derelict in his responsibility, but we can't look after that guy. That guy shirked his responsibility.
May I interject one other thing?
Go ahead.
And I'm a Christian, believe in the Bible, and the Bible says if there are people that can't take care of themselves, it's the children's place to take care of them.
Yeah.
And if not, it's the church's place.
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
Well, that's the way it was many years ago. The church was the place that rebuilt the house that burned down. It was, and as far as humanity is concerned, one of the reasons why we are to tend to our elderly is because we are their children, because we stand on their shoulders. But Mike, you have Notre Dame graduates who feel that it's okay to get up and walk out on the vice president of the United States when he's doing their commencement exercise. And you have students at Bethune-Cookman who think it's okay to stand up and turn their back on the director of the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, when she's doing their commencement exercise. This is the society that we are grooming and growing. And so, no, man, I'm all in. I understand exactly where you come from. Many won't. Many will take us to task for what you're saying. But what you're saying what we're doing has never been the way it was intended to be.
Well, thank you for taking my call, and I really enjoy your show.
Thank you, Mike. God bless you. Yeah, folks, Mike is right. Thank you so much for that call. Mike is right. It is like that. But what we have become, 320-5335, 320-5335, what we have become is programmed through social engineering to believe that somehow it is a right for me or for you to pay for me, or for me to pay for you? And the answer to that, and the reason you really did in the first place have family, is so you can look out for one another. Do you understand? That's what the family unit is for. So you can pool your various gifts together and take care of one another. And aside from that, that's why you have your faith organizations and the faith community, so that people of same beliefs, of common beliefs, can group together when one of the parishioners, let's just say, falls on hard times. It is then the responsibility of common believers to help one another. That is the way it was intended to be. And from that you come, of course, it grows into a larger community. If something happens to that faith organization in that community, then the rest of the community that is community minded like that helps that organization. That's the way it was intended to be. But we have become socially engineered to believe in this faceless thing. It doesn't have a body, but it stems from you. It's called big government. It's called the federal government. But we rob ourselves in giving that nameless, it's named, but it's faceless thing, and truly a figment of mass imagination, to think that there is something called federal government that actually pays for you. That is the biggest scam in the world. It's you. You pay, or at least those who are still able to work and not wanting to ride the dwindling resources of a mythical figure called the federal government. The states is where that money comes from. The citizens of the states give money to the states that kick it upstairs to the feds. So the money comes from you. And when you build a society that is riding on the back of the feds, then that society is riding on the backs of those who are still paying taxes, which is dwindling. That's why I'm saying to here in my state, and I know wherever you might be listening, I hope that you can understand this. When you stifle and take away items, monuments, whatever they might be, out of your state that are a part of the flavor of your state, that cause people to say, well, why go there? Why should we even be there? What's the point in going visit there? Lee Circle, okay, you take the statue of Lee out of Lee Circle, what's the point? Jackson Square, statue of Jackson's not there. I mean, hey, what's the point? So all you got is French Quarter? Well, it's got to be something that offends people about that. Point is this, especially here in Louisiana, and I know it's happening in other parts of the country. I know it's happening in other parts of the country. This politically correct movement is happening all over this nation because we're being socially engineered. But the point is this: you get to a point where there is nobody left in a state like this who cares, and certainly nobody left who can pay for your foolishness. I'll be right back. CL. Back with you on this Monday here in the jeweled cities of the Architects, Shreveport and Bossier, where we are streaming live throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. 320-5335, 318-320-5335 is the number to call. Jay will take Gary. Gary, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind, friend?
Well, CL, I was thinking about, as you were talking about the students that had the audacity to stand up in the middle of a commencement exercise, and I started thinking about all the free speech protesters and such. I'm a full advocate of free speech. But they have come to the point in American society where they have neutered everybody that will resist them, because either when you confront them, you are called a racist, a xenophobe, a homophobe. If the cops line up, they've taken the teeth out of the cops, because every cop now is scared to defend themselves, to face the jury trial of being brought out, perp walk in front of everybody to show that they're jackbooted stormtroopers that are out to do that. And I think America as a whole, and I don't mean to stereotype, I just kind of say it as a part of my parlance, would be there's times when I think the American people need to stand up and say enough.
Gary, you make an important point, because you bring up the police, and even though I know that our police will run toward the shots and not away. Absolutely. That's not what we're talking about as far as them standing down. They're standing down because, as you said, as you alluded to, there is a public scourging that is going on if a police officer dares to do his job in keeping law and order. As far as that is concerned, he gets publicly scourged, and who wants to be publicly scourged, and on top of that, branded as a racist for doing it? Who wants that?
And nobody that I would know, and certainly no police officers that I know, because they do yeoman's work every day. But you look at civilians at schools and universities. I think the university presidents, instead of rolling over and resigning, should bow up and say, this will not be tolerated on this campus, and you do have the right of free speech, but it will be done in a public discourse that is civil. When it becomes rioting and burning stuff down, you've gone beyond protest. You are now involved in rioting.
Right.
That is an unlawful act.
Right. Gary, I had a guest on, I think it was Friday, Dr. Marlene McMillan. She said that they are changing the words. They're changing the meaning of words. Free speech is one thing, and I want you to put this in your pipe when you get a chance to smoke on this a little bit. Free speech is one thing, but freedom of speech is what we actually have. Free speech means I can say, Gary, you're a horse thief. I have no proof of that. But the free speech says it to the America these days that you can say anything that you want to. You can actually scream fire in a crowded theater. That's free speech. But freedom of speech means that you're responsible for what you're saying. And she does. I'm going to have her up here. She does a seminar on that. Listen, man, thank you so much for calling and adding to the conversation.
You're very welcome, CL.
I'm CL, and what's that, Jay?
Stephen, if you want him.
Okay. Is it socialist, Stephen? 320-5335, 320-5335. Looks like we're going to have to give equal time to the socialist agenda that I know is about to be purported right here, right now. Stephen, socialist Stephen, hadn't heard from you in a while, man. Well, you been underground? You've been bombing stuff, I'm sure.
Man, our timing has just been off. I've been busy. Busy.
Well, that's a good thing, I hope.
Yep. Preach on, brother. Preach on. I love that. Freedom of speech. New definition. I love it.
Well, freedom of speech has always been freedom of speech. Free speech has not always been what we're about, though. Free speech is I can say to you, Stephen, you are a car thief. That's free speech. I'm free to say that, but it's not true.
And I can sue you. That's what I love about America.
Yeah. So who do we sue over the false accusations that are being launched at the president and conservatives? Who do we sue over that? See, y'all always want to sue us, but you want us to stand up for your rights.
I'm not going to complain about it. I love the way all this is going. I love it.
I know you do. I know you do. What do you love about it?
Huh?
What do you love about it?
We don't get America back.
Now wait a minute. Are you when you say we gonna get America back? I know you must be talking about the Clintonites, the Bernie Sanderites, and the Obamaites.
5% of Americans that didn't vote for it. How about that?
Oh, so now you guys are saying y'all want your country back, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we want to make
oh, that's too rich. That's too rich.
Well, look, brother. Hey, preacher, I like when you were talking about the churches helping out, and I think you're absolutely right. That should have been their obligation.
Yeah.
But I want you to tell me where they got a Christian church that's helping poor people get back on their feet and finding them jobs and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
The thing starts by teaching the Word of God, in my estimation. And out at our church, Word of God Ministries, where my pastor James A. McManus, he does that. And once in my estimation, once you understand that you as a man should take care of your family, that's where the help starts. That's what the word. That's what the Word of God teaches.
I remember going to T.D. Jakes' church.
Well, I'm not talking about T.D. See, you're bringing in a horse that I ain't riding. See, you're bringing a horse I wasn't even talking about. I love Dr. Pastor Jakes, but that's not who I'm talking about.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But last week y'all talked about redefining the Gospels. I love that one too. Last week.
Yeah.
Socialists are redefining the gospel. So you know what you got to do to combat that is you got to go to the New Testament and read every now and then from there. Where it tells you that you got to kill people for murder, and where they tell you if you don't work, you don't eat, and tell you that you got to threaten your enemies to solve a problem. You got to read from those passages in the New Testament to get people on the right track.
Yeah, I know that you're, much tongue-in-cheek there. You're all tongue-in-cheek and, of course, misquoting Scripture. You ought to be careful with that, brother. You ought to be careful with that because you're taking that totally out of context. I know you're trying to take a shot.
That New Testament is very easy to read and understand. If people would just read it.
It's easy to read, but it needs to be taught. I'll be back.
All right. Take care.
Where do these students get this disrespect from? Well, if you want to Google California Democrat Party State Convention there in California, you'll get an idea of where they get this type of disrespect from. They get it from adults. They get the example from adults. They're at the California Democratic State Convention. There was a moment there where this speaker asked the crowd to join him in a salute to the president. It was the featherless bird salute that he asked all of them to give, and they did it. So no wonder that children, young people coming out of college, they're only 18, we call that an adult, but they weren't that 8 years ago. The 22-year-old, 23-year-old coming out of college 8 years ago was just a teenager, barely. And the example that has been given over that period of time has led to what we're seeing now.
Jay?
And folks, it ain't good. It's not good. Did I say ain't? It ain't. It ain't good. 320-5335, 318-320-5335. I'll take your calls, Jay. I'll take Jay. Jay, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
CL, the folks down in New Orleans taking the statues don't realize what they're doing, my friend. Think about the legal precedent they're setting when they remove those monuments.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen down the road when someone comes along and uses that for a legal case in taking down statues to their heroes, whether it be Barack Obama or Martin Luther King? They can make the same exact argument that since those images were present at scenes of crimes, they can say guilty by association. Let's remove the monuments because they're offensive to a large segment of the population.
It is a genie that I do believe has been let out of the bottle. That if we cannot recapture it, if we can't reseal it, then it will lead to exactly what you are talking about. And I believe that a state or a nation that is so spineless that it cannot stand up and understand that its history has made it as strong as it is, then we are truly on the way to losing the republic.
And one other thing.
Go ahead.
Good. When you are tuning in nightly television and you see a rally against the police or a riot or a demonstration where people are acting crazy, typically you may see them holding up banners of their idols, their heroes. It may be MLK, it may be Barack Obama, but in either event, whoever their hero is, they may have T-shirts, banners, posters, and those people are just like the rebel flag. They're guilty on the scene of the crime when a cop gets killed, just like that Confederate flag. That image was guilty on the scene of the crime. The court said it was guilty by implication, or not the court, but the Nikki Haley did in South Carolina. But when people are making a stretch like that, saying that the rebel flag is representative of hate and racism because it was there when someone committed a crime, what's to stop the other thing from happening when someone says, well, guess what? When they killed those cops, there was the image of MLK or Barack Obama, so let's ban those images from our society because in the minds of these distorted people, they may say that represents hate.
It is a high and slippery slope that we are headed down. I believe, and I don't know if you're here in Shreveport or somewhere else in the country, but I was born in Confederate Memorial Hospital. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Confederate Memorial Hospital, but it was in Louisiana now, LSU Health Center, what it was. And that was back in the 50s when I was born. It has not it has not harmed me whatsoever. It is a historical fact that I was born in a Confederate state, a state that was a part of the Confederacy. And that part of the Great American Gumbo adds to the flavor and the victory story, the story of success that I think America as a whole has achieved. And if we put that on the back burner, if we put that on the shelf, if we don't talk about where we came from and how that made us great as well, then we lose so much of ourself. We really do. And we do our children a disfavor because they don't know just how strong a history we truly have with all of our monuments.
And there were many black men that fought in the Confederacy for the South, and it wasn't as much about slavery as it was the economic advantage to the South for having slavery. And people don't understand that when the North wanted to free slaves, it wasn't for humanitarian reasons, it was for economic reasons.
And that has always been the case, the same reason that most Northern agitators from Chicago or New York City or out west in Los Angeles want to keep that same block together so that they can have a voting block to maintain an economic control over a group of people. It's the same thing that goes on. And here's something else, Jay, and I'll leave you with this. Those who fail to learn the lessons of your historical past, you're doomed to repeat them. And that's what we're seeing in the streets of America today. We're repeating a lesson that we should have learned and gotten past. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, thank you. See, I talk to people all the time that are friends of mine that are African American. They say they go to classes so they can learn what to be offended by.
You know what? That's not too far off the mark, because there is a progressive liberal social engineering school that's going on in this country right now. Jay, thanks a lot. I'm CL. We'll be back in just a few minutes. CL back with you on this Monday. And the reality, excuse me, of being president is something that I want to talk to you about. And I will, but I do want to get a couple of the calls out of the way. There's so much that I need to talk to you about tonight. But I'll get a couple of calls out of the way. 318-320-5335. Jay, I think we'll take Daniel. Bill, hang on. Daniel, what's on your mind? Thank you for calling, friend. What's up?
Hey, CL.
Hey.
Like you, I think you jumped on the Trump bandwagon a little bit earlier than I did.
Yeah.
You jumped on as, as soon as he became the nominee. I jumped on him as soon as he became the president because, that's just the president and, that's what I'm going to do, support him. And, I think that's our duty as Americans because that's what he was voted into office. So I have no problem with Trump. I also have no problem with the removal of the Confederate statues because it was the same process. There was a vote, and the people wanted, the people voted they're removed. So, I'm not going to complain one way or the other about that as well. I think the previous caller when he was saying, what if this, what if that? Well, if we take a vote and the vote is for something, removal of Martin Luther King's statue or Barack Obama's statue, whatever the case may be, then, we have to look at it just as that, that's democracy in action.
Well, Daniel, what if they vote to say that American history should be changed from Washington to Barack Obama? What do we do then?
Yeah, so at that point, we take a look at the people who voted for that, and then that's where we as a people say, hey, look, whoever voted for that is not following the will of us. Let's vote them out of office, and then let's bring that back up for another vote.
That's where we are right now, Daniel. That's where we are right now. But see, this is the thing. This is what the former caller was trying to say. If we let it get to that point, and that's where it's headed, you have to understand now, that is where this is headed. It's headed to a point where somebody's going to say, let's vote to revise history of America. Let's vote it so it's palatable to our young people who can't stand to hear any bad names. Let's vote so that they never have to hear anything that's uncomfortable. Daniel, if we do it like that, we will lose what is called a republic. Common sense. It's just common sense. There are some things you can't. Daniel, why don't we vote on who you are?
Okay.
Why don't we vote on where you were born?
Yeah, well, you can't. You can't whitewash history, but I think Mitch, he said it very eloquently. He said that, look, history is history, but just because it's history doesn't mean that it needs to be paraded. Put these statues in their proper context and, in their proper place, not paraded through the squares of cities and towns all across America. And
okay, let's personalize it. Let's personalize it. We have the statue of Daniel. We have the statue of Daniel, and Daniel's family is very proud that he contributed to their community's history. But somebody comes along in Daniel's family's community that Daniel helped found, and his statue is there, but there was something about Daniel that they didn't like about him. And they are saying that because they don't understand that history, and they haven't taken the time to understand the history of Daniel, they need to take that statue down without understanding anything about why it's there. Daniel, that's how unfair that would be.
Your point is well taken, but on the same token, there's this personalized again with me. There's things in my past that are very much a part of me that have shaped me. Things that are not very pleasant, but they are a part of me, and I won't ever deny it. But at the same time, I'm not going to introduce myself. Hey, CL, I'm Daniel. Here's a
Robert E. Lee cannot introduce himself to anybody, but he is a part of American history. The same thing with the Confederate flag, Daniel. It's a relic. It's a relic.
Well, you don't parade certain aspects of anything. You don't just say, oh, well, I was. I'm Daniel, the former drug user. No, I'm Daniel, the educator, Daniel, the military person, or whatever you want to say. So, you know, in that sense, you know, you don't. I get it that you don't deny that, you know,
Right.
might have been a former drug user, but at the same time, you don't put it out there at the forefront, say, you know, for the
Nobody
whole
does
world to see.
until, guess what, Daniel? You're familiar. You're familiar with this area of the country. I mean, this area
I am.
of the Arklatex. Nobody at DeSoto Parish High School was saying anything about any rebel flags until somebody agitated it. And I have a
Not at
feeling
all. Not at all.
nobody was saying anything about it. Nobody. And but listen, I got to run, man, but I thank you so much. I got to take another call, but I thank you so much for calling in. The phones are blowing up over this issue, Daniel. Thank you so much. Hadn't heard from you in a long time, brother. Don't be a stranger. Bill, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on the line? What's on your mind?
Daniel needs to read some history on Dr. King, I think. But anyway, CL, you know, Dr. King never did mention the statue. You know, way back in the civil rights in the 60s, I have never heard Dr. King say anything about the Confederate flag or statue.
You know why? Because he was too busy wanting to get jobs. He was too busy wanting people to not be lynched and that type thing. He was too busy trying to make sure. But because let me tell you this about King. King had good common sense. He knew where he was. He was in the South. And I'm in the South. And the South was a part of the Confederacy. Right. And it is a very rich part of American history that needs to be taught. It needs to be learned from.
But people do not want to know anything about history no more, CL.
Oh, no.
I tell you one thing. I was born, I can tell you something about the statue in Shreveport. I was like 11 or 12 years old. I was born in 49. And that's somewhere in 62, 63, I had an uncle that kept up with stuff. And I heard a piece on the news about a week ago about that property. That property, now that's what I heard when I was about 11, 12 years old. That property was a statue in a courthouse in Shreveport, belonged to a family that was, the family fought in the Confederate, in the Civil War.
Right.
And it seemed like it was Bentley, Berkeley, or whatever the family name was. They wanted a statue there, and they donated the land to the city.
And the stipulation was, I'm not really sure, they may run into a problem with trying to remove that statue, but I think the stipulation was that the statue could not be removed without some kind of consent from the family.
The anniversary of it, but, you know, like I said, I was about 11, 12 or 13 years old. I heard my uncle talk about that statue.
Yeah.
You know.
So, but just the same,
pay for all this stuff.
Well, you and I are going to pay for it. Hey, Bill, thank you so much. Hey, man, you've been a stranger. Thank you so much for calling. I'll talk to you soon.
God bless you, CL.
You too.
Bye.
I'm CL. Be right back.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
If I could speak any words of wisdom to you tonight, when we are talking about this particular issue, I would whisper the words of wisdom to you to let it be. Because you are opening up a hornet's nest. You are opening up, you have let a genie out of a bottle that you will not be able to put back in that bottle. Once you start trying to rewrite history by taking down things that offend you, you open the door for everybody with a chip on their shoulder to be offended. And as I have said to you throughout this fruited plains, I was just up in West Virginia this last weekend, this past weekend. And let me tell you something. They are being regulated out of business in West Virginia, but they're not doing it to themselves. Some people have hired crooked politicians to do it to them. I was there with the Attorney General there in West Virginia, and but here in some states, North Carolina, you're one of those too. Louisiana, you're one of those. Louisiana, North Carolina, Nikki Haley, South Carolina, you're doing it to yourself. You have created something that you're going to regret doing. Oh, yeah, you are. And it's going to happen to a point where folks will leave, those who can, because the flavor is gone. Chewed all the flavor out of the gum. Ain't nothing left to do but spit it out. Yeah. When you chew all the flavor, and I don't know how we could get to a point where we don't want to add to the flavoring of what we are, who we are, what we're about. Add to that. Add to that a lesson. Add to that another ingredient that enhances that, brings out the flavor. I guess it's being married to my wife, who's been a chef over all these periods of time, that I think of things in terms of food and the way flavors ought to be. But folks, if it's not quite to your taste, then you have to add a little something to it. Huh? Yeah, you have to add a little something to it to enhance the flavor of it. In this situation where we're talking about here, as far as things that people say offend them, those things have been around for over 100 years. You have to ask yourself why all of a sudden now they are offensive. They weren't. Okay, let's go back to the 60s. I think Bill said it real good. King wasn't taking those on. It wasn't the symbols that was holding him back. Oh, you don't hear me? It wasn't the symbols that were holding him back. It was a form of government. So you had to get people voting in the right way to change the possibilities of opportunity. The rebel flag doesn't have anything to do in its as far as it being a relic. It has nothing to do with the unemployment rate, or the crime rate for that matter, or the rate of unwed mothers. It has nothing to do with the abortion rate. It has nothing to do with that. Neither does any monument that you can point to. It has nothing to do with it. It doesn't. But I'm telling you, you have let I'm talking about a monster out of the cage when you try to start rewriting history, because there are things in recent history that I'm sure tick a whole lot of people off. They're coming to say their piece too, and what are you going to do? You're going to wind up in federal court because you're setting precedents that should never be set over historical monuments. Yeah. Next thing they're doing it to you. They're telling you that your identity is not your identity. You shouldn't say he or she. Huh? Don't you see what's happening here? Huh? Historically, that has been the case. Historically, there have been males and females. Historically, that has been the case. But someone's offended by being called male or female. So, let's vote on it. Let's change it. Let's vote on what we will be called. Let's take it down because it's offensive to someone who doesn't want to be called a male or a female. Don't you see what's happening here? You are being socially engineered in front of your eyes over something that stimulates emotion. And anyone who makes an important decision, especially on history, based on emotion, the same way anyone who votes for a president vote based on emotion. Or if you marry a wife because it's based on emotion, or you take a husband for the same reason, you've done something very foolish. I'm CL. Be right back.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. We're in the home stretch. Breaking news out of Manchester, England at an Ariana Grande concert. We're seeing that there has been an explosion at that concert. 20 people killed, possibly hundreds seriously wounded there in Manchester, England at an Ariana Grande concert. All reports she is fine, but 20 are dead. That is something that we must, I will be monitoring for the home stretch to keep you abreast of what's going on. Again, 20 are wounded. 20 are killed, and there are at least 100 that are wounded there in Manchester, England. And they're not calling it a terror attack as yet. I'll talk to you more about it. On with me now is Douglas Obrecht, Louisiana State Director of Director of Americans for Fair Taxation. Doug, I know very well, have great respect for him. Doug, welcome to the C.L. Bryant Show. Thank you so much for being there.
No problem, CL. Thanks. It's kind of hard to follow a bombing, but
yeah, it's a hard act to follow, that's for sure. But I certainly hope that as many as could make it out. But Douglas, now the fair tax. A lot of people may not be familiar what the difference of that is compared to a flat tax or the type of taxation that we're used to as far as the income tax is concerned. Give us some type of insight.
right. The fair tax is completely getting rid of, on the federal level right now, all income-based taxing and moving to a straight consumption tax. Most of the flat tax proposals you'll hear, people are still basing it on income, what we make, what we earn. And to me, allowing the government to take what we earn is allowing them to keep the fruits of our labor.
And that is very important, folks. That's why you work, after all. Is that right? That's why we go to work. Now, tomorrow night, there's going to be a gathering at Centenary College, and I see it's going to be at Carlisle Auditorium, room 114. 5:30 is the meet and greet. 6 to 7 p.m. will be the discussion. Now, Doug, you're going to be there in this discussion. Is that right?
Yes, I'll be there, and I don't like to say giving a speech because I'm not much of a speech giver, but I like to have a discussion with people. We'll talk about the fair tax specifically, and then
why
Donald Trump's current plan and the Republicans' current plan, and they're still trying to harken back to 1986 and keep us based on an income tax and in the past.
Yeah. Now, in your estimation, hearkening back to the 86 tax codes for us, good, bad, indifferent, what can be improved?
Well, any change from where we are now is going to be good, but most of the politicians who are wanting to change and go back to it will tell you specifically the reason they want to go back to it is because since 1986, the income tax code has been changed so many times. So if they go back to it, where are we going to be in 10 more years? Doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's time to look at a new proposal, a real change in the way we fund our government.
Doug, I've known you a number of years now, and you have always been on the warpath with this Fair Tax Act. And give us an idea of what lit the fire for you.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What lit the fire for you in your zeal to be a champion of this?
Well, just the complications of the tax code. We as a citizenry spend $400 billion a year in compliance costs just doing our taxes. That's money just spent in man hours or paying somebody. I do my own taxes. But time I spend in front of my computer, sitting down, doing my taxes is just so complicated. And the tax code anymore, what it should be for is to fund our government. That's what taxes should be for.
Right.
And what the current tax code is for mostly is a bartering tool for politicians.
Right.
And just the a couple weeks ago, I think I sent you something when one of the senators was on with you and talking about his health care plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And immediately he went to, oh, and we're going to give tax breaks to so and so.
Yeah.
You know, even dealing with our health care, they're going to go through the tax code to pay somebody.
Yeah.
And to me, just that complication and that corruption within our tax code is the reason we need to completely get away from it. And
Well,
like I said just a few minutes ago, is as long as we stay with an income-based system, you're telling the government that they deserve to have your money before you get it.
And you saying that, and that's very important that people understand what you have just said. We're actually yielding that portion of ourselves, and I think the federal government is really a figment of, we've made it into something that it was never intended to be, and now we worship it. It's a golden calf. We worship the Fed that we created, and when you say it like you just said it, that we give that creation of ours the right to do what it does to us, Doug, that somehow to me, that seems self-destructive. Listen, man, I'm going to announce this at the other side of the break again, that you're going to be there, and I want to thank you for coming on the show.
No problem, CL. Thanks very much. And I'm sorry I didn't have more time this time. We'll
get together again
sometime when I can sit down with you.
You betcha. Talk to you soon.
Thanks very much. All right, bye-bye.
Bye. That's Douglas Albrecht, and he will be at Centenary tomorrow night. I'll tell you the time and place in just a few minutes when I return. CL back with you on this Monday here in the jewel cities of the architect, streaming nationwide throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. The hypocrisy knows no bound of what progressive liberals are saying now about the president's visit to the Saudis, to Saudi Arabia, King Solomon. And and the hypocrisy comes in this form, folks. They're asking, why would Trump give any time to the Saudis, since they are such bad people? Not taking into account, or not even mentioning, that Hillary Clinton received tens of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation from the same Saudi Arabians. Saudis are business people, same as any business folks. They do business with whoever they can do business with and make money from. Their business people. Of course, they had no clue they had oil until we showed it to them. If the reality of being president of the United States is to negotiate one of the toughest deals of all time in this present era. The reality is to negotiate one of the toughest deals of all time in this present era. And folks, let me tell you something. In negotiating that deal, Trump is just not about diplomacy. He is there to do deals to create commerce. Yeah. A commercial vehicle that creates American jobs. He's there to stimulate the vehicle that drives the engine of the free market and spread that abroad to places that actually need the sunlight of capitalism, that actually grows itself into a free people. Yeah, because what happens once people start taking advantage of a system of capitalism, they understand that their quality of life improves. That's why America is America, because even the freed slave was able to take advantage of a capitalist system and compete, grow his own food for his own self, sell it if he could, make your own shoes for yourself, make your own horse harnesses, shoe your own animals as you were doing anyway, and make a profit off of that by doing it for others. Many a prosperous people, red, yellow, black, and white, have made the quality of living, their quality of living, better by taking advantage of the free market. That's what this president is about. He's about not just diplomacy. He's about creating a deal to introduce and expand the effects of the free market, creating commerce that creates jobs for Americans, advancing prosperity, and above all, defeating evil, because the evil of terrorism, and we take into account what's just happened with Ariana Grande, the idea about that is to thwart your desire to do anything because you're afraid. You're afraid. Those countries like Saudi Arabia that have ruled their countries with fear, once they're exposed and once their people are exposed to the opportunities of a free market, fear begins to go away, because now the people become valuable to the government system because they're now creating wealth. The people create wealth, not the other way around. Not the Saudi princes will always have money. They'll always have plenty of it. And they can always crack down on it. But once the people start creating a system of wealth for themselves, it actually makes it better for those who were in authority. Capitalism is something else. That's the bottom line. Capitalism is something else. The free market sets people free because by the sweat of your brow you eat. And you're beholding only to your Creator above, who gives you the strength and the life to get up every day and go do it again. And by chance, if you're doing something that you're naturally gifted at, if you're doing something that you enjoy doing or makes other people happy or teach them how to do what you do, if you're doing something like that, hey, it don't get any better than that. I'm C. I'll be right back.
One, two, 1, 2, 3.
All right, we're back to close it out here today. And I heard the president of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is the prime minister of Israel, but I heard the president of Israel, Reuven Rivlin, say to the president, Mr. President, we are happy to see that America is back. Now, folks, as we close this out, I want to share with you what that implies. America is back. It means that the rest of the world has been thinking, for whatever reason, that we had left the stage, that we had abdicated our place, we had abdicated our position of authority, at least in the form of who we had been in our recent past. What had we been in our recent past? What is it that the world had been missing by America vacating the stage? By America not being where the rest of the world knew and understands we should be. What had they missed? What have they missed? Why do they say that America is back? Where had we gone? Well, evidently, it is a question to be answered. But it is really good to hear people say things like, we're happy to see that America is back. Because it is always good to know that you were missed. And to answer that question that I ask, what was it that they missed? They missed our strong presence. They missed that part of the greatest nation on the face of the earth. They missed the presence of the greatest success story the world has ever known. Well, I'm CL, and I want to thank God for bringing us to the close of yet another day. And I want to thank him for our men and women in uniform around the globe who defend our right to speak our minds. And until I'm able to talk to you again, may God bless and keep you all.
Stand by your side, and the bond